There isn't one single key to a happy life. Our happiness comes from many things, like connecting with others, how we treat ourselves, and how we relate to the natural world around us. And there are practices that have been shown in the lab to help us get better at these things. I'm Dacher Keltner, psychologist at UC Berkeley. Join me on the Science of Happiness podcast as we explore these practices. In each episode, guests from all walks of life give a practice a try. And then we hear from experts about why they work. Find the Science of Happiness wherever you get your podcasts.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's wearing a watch. But I don't need, you know what time it is? It's time for me to go off topic, get mixed up. It's time for me to keep you company, because that's kind of what I do. I was trying to think of more witty things to say about not having a watch. You're here just in time for me to go off topic and get mixed up. And if you say, I don't know what you're talking about, I thought this was a sleep podcast meant to keep you company so you're not alone in the deep, dark night, to take your mind off stuff so you could fall asleep. You're the most important part of the show. But this podcast is very different, not for everybody. Give it a few tries, see how it goes. The structure of the show is I'm going to do some support for the podcast. Then there'll be an intro to help you ease you into bedtime. And there'll be an episodically modular bedtime story you could listen to in any order. And it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And these sponsors are what enable us to be here for you free twice a week. Hey, everybody, I want to let you know about a podcast I love and a podcaster I love. If you want to learn about fascinating moments in history in the most relaxing way possible, then you got to check out Calm History. Each episode is narrated in a calm voice to help you relax or fall asleep. You'll learn about famous explorers, leaders, inventions, civilizations, and ancient wonders. And there's even a 6-part series about the Titanic. So just check your podcast player for Calm History, CALM History. Or use the link in our show notes and check it out. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody. It's time to do something I haven't recorded in a long time. And we're going to cover the movie Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And part of the reason I'm doing this, I was like, geez, trying to figure out movies that came out, what I presume is the aughts, but I really don't know. So I probably should look that up. And also, at some point here, maybe before this even comes out, there'll be what I think is a Lord of the Rings TV, like a streaming show or a super extended film. So I'm talking about the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings. And I'm going to try to remember what I can of the first movie. I will say that I've seen the movie, like this will be even more embarrassing because I've seen the extended version in the last 3 years. And I would say I've seen it twice in the last 3 to 5 years. Probably in the last 3 years since I bought the extended version. I probably watched it once alone and then watched it with my daughter. And then watched about half of the Two Towers with my daughter before she said, there's still 3 more hours in this part of the thing. And I said, that sounds like something someone from Rohan would say. And she said that even in the context of the film, actually that part never happened. But so I can remember seeing this in the movie theater, Grand Lake Theater in Oakland. And in preparation, I reread the books, though I don't really, like at this point, my mind is, but I remember, and I think it was one of those things where I didn't know if the idea was, like, I can remember where I was when I bought a used mass market paperback version of The Fellowship of the Rings. I was in what is that place called? It's like a used, like a secondhand store, the kind of mass market paperback you buy at a secondhand store, something town, Thrift Town, I think. I think it was called somewhere in the East Bay, Hayward, San Leandro. And I was looking through the books saying, or maybe I was I don't know. I can kind of picture it, and I can picture where I was standing. And I said, oh, yeah, I haven't read these in a while. This is a cool cover. And maybe I was even aware that the movies were being filmed, and that's why I bought it. I can't remember my motivation or if I bought it, and then I was like, holy cow. But I do remember trying to read the books before the movies came out. I think successfully. And it was before I went to England, I think, because then when I went to Oxford and Cambridge, I was very disappointed not to be able to go to the pub. That I can't think of the name of that either. But whatever, life moves on. So this may be more on the extended version because that's the last thing I saw. And I can't even remember really how it's like. So it starts off in the world. What is that place called? The Shire, where the hobbits live. Hobbiton, I think. And I don't remember exactly how it starts. But we start to get introduced to all the main characters, Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. Bag End is where they live. And Samwise Gamgee. Again, people are going to get, I'm not doing this on purpose. I do pronounce the words differently. What is a sight word to me? Even if I heard it in the movie, it's still going to be a sight word that I imagined how it sounded. But so, I think we get an idea of those two, of Frodo and Bilbo, and Frodo kind of being... You saying, is this all there is? Life in the Shire is pretty good, but what else is going on? And we meet Sam, who's Frodo's best friend, and then we meet Bilbo. I think we get a hint to the ring even early on, and that Bilbo's preparing for a journey and a little bit stressed about something. And then Gandalf arrives, Gandalf the Grey, and I don't know if Gandalf arrives twice. I think Gandalf does come twice. But it's like this big, I think it's like Frodo's birthday, maybe. I don't know, his name day, or whatever they call it there, candle day or cake day. And so there's a big party for Frodo, or Bilbo. And we also meet Pippin and Merry. Maybe, I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to do a bit here. But I think those are the two other characters. And we get a sense of the Shire. Pretty nice place to live. Hobbits love life. They like dancing, fireworks, dating, eating, and drinking. And we get the sense of Gandalf and Bilbo's friendship and the looming thing, the ring, and some other, something else going on that's stressing everybody out. And that Bilbo is leaving, and I think he's planning on leaving the Shire forever. And then also that Bilbo is either, I can't remember what happens with the ring, if he gives it to Frodo. I know there's like an envelope or something. Then what happens is Gandalf returns. Some stuff happens. I don't even know. So maybe this happens next. I don't think it does. But I don't know why. But because I was having trouble figuring out if this happens in this movie or in another movie. I mean, like within the series of 3. But... yeah, let's hold off on that because I'm not sure when it happens, if it happened right now. But it wouldn't make sense because we're still getting to know Frodo. So, yeah, what I think happens is Gandalf returns, maybe some interstitials, like some other stuff happens. But he says, listen, kid, you got to get that ring. So why would, no, because, yeah, then why did he return? I don't know. Because he rides really fast. I don't know. Maybe he's leaving and comes back. So I don't know if, again, what happened in between here. But basically, these are the ring wraiths, I think. They're looking for, so just to set it up for you. Okay, oh boy, because in case you don't watch this or you're not familiar. So hobbits are, they're a humanoid, about 3-4 feet high. They don't need shoes because they have like hairy, sturdy feet. They're not like, depending on, like, they're not like a kender or a troll or anything. Typically in Dungeons and Dragons, they are called halflings, I think, but maybe not, because, I'm thinking of kenders, because I'm from the Dragonlance world, not the other, like, that's what I read the most fiction from. Anyway, though, so what was my point? Okay, so that's what hobbits are. They're nice people. Let's just go with that. Just picture in mind, nice, friendly, community-based people, Lovejoy. Gandalf is a human wizard. Now, a couple of things about Gandalf. I've talked about this on the show before, and even picturing in my mind. Now, when Gandalf is Gandalf the Grey, great portrayal. It seems like a cool wizard. He's joyful, but also can be have a temper and be a grouch. He also is a bit, he looks like he probably it needs a shower at most points in the movie. In the first half of this movie, you see Gandalf could use a shower, at least to wash his hair. So he looks like he would be pungent and probably be like, dude, can you wash that robe? Like, I don't care if you walk around naked. Like, I'm going to wash you and I'm going to wash your robe. Do you have an extra robe? But so that's the situation. Those are the characters. Then there's Sauron. Now it gets really confusing here, but just think of sour balls, Sauron. Don't worry about spelling it, but Sauron, at some point they explain the history. Maybe this is in here too, in the beginning. There's a lot of, at different points, there's a little bit of elven narration. It's very nice. And I think that's Kate Blanchett does the narration, maybe. Like, long ago, there was a land with pure joy. And then, like that kind of stuff. Not quite sleepy. But so, meanwhile, basically the movie starts, hobbits are living their best life, I could say, except for Frodo. Or except for Bilbo, who's an older hobbit, wants to write a book, but it has some stress, has this ring. That's at least the symbol of stress. Hint, though, it's not. It's actually the cause, not a metaphor. That ring, one ring to rule them all, it is a metaphor, but also not a metaphor in the movie. So the ring is stressing him out, and his health's not so great or whatever or something. I don't know. You get the sense of like, okay, this cat's like... looking at it and saying, what am I going to do with the rest of my days? You have his nephew, Frodo, lives with him. More or less a father-son style relationship. Frodo's a kid, right at the cusp of adulthood. Or like a young adult saying, what the heck is it? What am I going to do with my life? This is kind of boring. I have a sense of adventure, but I love my home. The Shire's the best. Have his best friend, Samwise Gamgee, who is, like working his way up, a scrapper, rough around the edges, a little bit, has a broader emotional range, like he has a bit of an emotional range in a good way. And then you have Merry and Pippin or whatever, who are their secondary friends, really nice. They'll play a bigger role at different times, and they're a bit of, they got the trickster in them and the adventurer. They're like Winnie the Pooh. Well, sometimes they act like Winnie the Pooh. Sometimes they act like other characters. Getting into trouble. And you have Gandalf the Grey, a leader, part of a council of something, full love, but also has a heroic streak, and involved in the ways of the world, and a leader. but also wandering around. It seems like wandering around, loves to check up on the communities, but also is checking up on them for some reason. Good friends with Frodo. They had some adventures way back. Didn't go so hot. This ring's a part of it. Gandalf's stressed about the ring too. Okay, then meanwhile, in the world, which may be explained or not, there's Sauron, totally evil being, demigod type powers, maybe even more. They thought they got rid of him, but, history shows that Sauron way back made these rings to trick people to share the power, but really Sauron was a dictator. This king stood up to him, worked with the elves. They did, a bunch of stuff happened. Sauron was defeated. They thought it was forever. Turns out it's not. Meanwhile, when Sauron was giving out these rings, one ring to rule them all, Sauron wore a ring, the Ring of Power. They gave out all the rings to the leaders of all the kingdoms, but everybody that put on a ring, they became under Sauron's power. I think. I'm not, don't hold me to this. This is what the tale of the tape in my mind. Now Sauron lives in a volcano, or lives in Mount Doom, I think, and is up to stuff, recruiting people, looking for this ring, sends out these ring wraiths who are like, just like in other movies, fairly powerful forces of Sauron's main heavies, I'd say. They ride horses, they wear armor, they're up to no good. They can sense the ring because they're, related to it, and they're sniffing it out. So basic situation is Sauron needs that ring back. And the ring was lost forever, found by Frodo. Also, I think the backstory of that, I'll just tell it to you now, but I think one of the elves tells it to us later. It tells Frodo. Once upon a time, there was I don't even think this comes in this movie, but basically there's a Smeagol Gollum. And the ring had been lost because, it was the ring is its own sentience, and it's not a good sentience. It wants to get back to Sauron or corrupt whoever wears it. The rings were corruptive, like all power corrupts type stuff. All of them, but this was the main ring, I believe. So it had fallen out of the world, but the ring wants to find its way back. So it had found this one dude, Smeagol, who found the ring when he was swimming with his cousin or something. He took the ring, ended up going and living like in a grotto, and became obsessed with the ring. The ring became his best friend. And I guess the ring just kind of parked itself with Smeagol for a while, or Gollum. Sooner or later, he was totally isolated. Kind of the ring was a higher power type drug for him. And Frodo found it during his adventures. He ran into Smeagol and the ring. Ring makes you invisible, but not in a good way, not like some invisible cloak. And Smeagol swore he would get the ring back, Gollum. So he's been looking for it too. So as the movie starts, Frodo gives Bilbo the ring. No, Bilbo gives Frodo the ring. Gandalf warns him. He comes back, he says, everybody's looking for this ring. You got to get out of the Shire and get yourself to this pub, meet up with this dude Strider. He'll help you out. And Bilbo's like, I'm not sure I want to leave home, never left home. Sam says, I'll go with you. And because Bilbo just departed, he couldn't handle goodbye or something, but he left the ring. Maybe Gandalf was hungover when all this happened, but whatever. So Frodo has to head out. Sam goes with him. Then Merry and Pippin meet up with them, and they say, hey, we're coming too. Frodo already realizes that this is pretty serious. And they just dodge the ring wraiths at one point when they're on the road. The ring wraiths are looking for them. And Gandalf goes, yo, I got to go take care of some business. So you find Strider. I'm going to take care of this other stuff. So I get to this part here, but plus I forget a ton of stuff. But so then Gandalf goes off. Now this is confusing. There's Sauron, but there's also Sauron. And again, Sauron and Saruman or something. Christopher Lee plays Sauron, who's also a famous wizard, was once one of the great wizards of the world. Gandalf's friend, super powerful, but wears white robes. But this is not the same as Dragonlance. Like, your robes don't necessarily... Like in Dragonlance, the wizards wore either black robes, red robes, or white robes, and they kind of showed their alignment. I don't know about this world, but Gandalf wears gray robes. His robes could have been white, though, the way he could, like, launder stuff. But so he goes to Sauron and says, yo, do you know about the Sauron? He's up to stuff. And he's building an army. He's looking for this ring. What do you think we should do? We got to get everybody, nobody, also apathy and stuff and an ambition rule the world now. And Saruman says, yeah, we definitely do, but I think you're overreacting. And he goes, I've been spying on him. I got this, like, a globe that, helped me to see him. And then... And Gandalf says, man, I heard about those. It's like a seeing stone or something. He goes, but I heard those were like two-way, man. That's not good. And then he goes, two-way. And then he realizes too late that Sauron has made a deal with Sauron or been, overpowered by him. And they do a little dance-off, and Sauron wins. And he says, I'm going to lock you up till you tell me where the ring's at. But he already says, don't worry, the ring's already safe. Now, meanwhile, Sauron is starting to build another army for Sauron of, like, combined beings. And so he starts this whole, like, military-industrial complex at his tower. I think that's a lot of that's in the next movie, but just, set it up. So meanwhile, Gandalf is, like, stuck there on his roof. But then Gandalf calls a moth, talks to a moth and says, go get me a griffin. And the moth says, no problem. And the griffin comes and rescues Gandalf. That happens at some point in the first half of this film. The hobbits, they go meet up with the Strider at a pub, human pub. Of course, there's trouble. Of course, they said keep a low profile, but once you get a drink in a hobbit, they're dancing on the tables, pouring drinks over their heads. And so the ringwraiths eventually track them down at the hotel, I think. And they sneak out of there. Then they try to hide out again. Like somewhere else, like at a castle the next day, because they're on the run and they're sleeping there. And then the ringwraiths show up again. Meanwhile, Strider's, like, doing his best. He's trying to train the hobbits and stuff. But then Frodo puts on the ring, I think by accident, and he realizes he disappears, but the ringwraiths can see them. And they basically give him like a little, like a spectral touch or something. And he gets a tummy tum-tum. Now they're on the run from the ringwraiths. Frodo has a tummy tum-tum, but they meet up with Strider, who ends up as like this, like, royal blood. He's like one of those people that's like can go between the world of the elves. He's loved by elves, loved by some humans. Heir to the throne of Gondor, Aragon, something like that, is his human name. Strider's his elven name. He's a ranger, ranger by day, Harlequin style, like, he's got flowing hair, beautiful eyes, and he's dating an elven princess, of course, she shows up. Now, she's also got magic powers. So she helps them escape, maybe even twice from the ring race. They go on the run. She helps Frodo. They split up. Frodo goes to sleep. Next thing you know, do they get away? They do. And Frodo wakes up after resting for a while. Bilbo's there. And Frodo's on the mend. And we're in I don't know where we are. Maybe I'll think of it. So, Elven paradise, basically. Now we get a lot of info here. One, we find out that Bilbo's still obsessed with the ring, and so Frodo says, whoa, buddy, boundaries. Then he gives, he'd already given like a mithril chainmail and his sword to Bilbo, or Frodo maybe, or maybe he gives them to him now, but whatever. Then we find out, Sam and Merry and Pippin are there. And we find out that, all's not well in the human world. Sean Bean is Boromir. He thinks that his family is ready to take the throne, or maybe even him. And that there'll be leaders of pure heart, that he could even handle the ring, and that we should use the ring for good. But really, you're supposed to throw the ring in Mount Doom, and that'll solve it all. The elves are bolting from the world. They're taking boats and they're leaving. Bilbo's going with them. But we had the last great council to decide what to do, and everybody's represented. So you have elves, dwarves, and different, a couple of humans from different, Boromir from whatever. I don't know if he's from Rohan or, I think he's from Gondor, but he's not an official. He's on like the second tier family or something. And he just he's a little needy. So then they say, what are we going to do about this? We got to throw this ring in Mount Doom, but it has power. It corrupts most people. And they say, we need a hero. And then everybody says, I don't know what to do. And they're arguing. And Frodo says, whoa, man. I'll do it because I've been wearing it anyway. It's my responsibility. I got it covered. And then Sam's like, no way you're going without me. And then even Gandalf and Strider, Aragorn, Boromir, Gimli, or the representative of the dwarves, and Legolas, the best athlete in all of the elves, they all say, we'll go with you. We'll form a fellowship of the ring. And we'll help you get to Mount Doom. And they say, okay, sounds good. So they set out, but they're trying to avoid the ring wraiths. Now Sauron's got people going out looking for them. Also, they try to go over this one mountain. So they're encountering all sorts of difficulties, right? Also, Aragorn has to break up with the elven princess because she says, I guess they have this impressive lifespan, but she could give up her lifespan to be with a human. He says, nah, don't waste your time with me. And meanwhile, they're like, you're splitting, like you're basically going into isolation when we could use some elven help with this Sauron. And they say, it's not going to go good. We're getting out of here. So then they try to go over this mountain, but Sauron is like casting he's so powerful he could cast lightning bolts across, change the weather and stuff. So they can't get over this mountain. So then they go back down and they say, what are we going to do? We got to get over these mountains to get to the next round of mountains to get to Mount Doom. And there's even apps that tell you how far it is that Bilbo had to walk. There's one running app. I never use it, but I downloaded it because you could use it to track your running to see how long it would take you to recap Bilbo's or Frodo's journey. But so then they're in a pickle, right? So then they say, okay, well, what are we going to do? And they said, well, like you could go through this old dwarven mine and fortress or kingdom built into this one mountain, but we heard nothing good came out of it. And this is where a little bit of the history was confusing to me. And again, because I read so much Dragonlance, so it's just kind of hard for me to separate, but I guess you could fill in the blanks. So now they're like cornered, right? They go back down the mountain. They can't go over it. Everybody's looking for them. They're at this magical set of doors. And then they have to figure out the spell, and they have to figure out how to say open it. I think you have to do it at like a full moon. Just happens to be a full moon. They finally get the door open with some teamwork brainstorming and arguing. They get the door open. And then, I don't know if you remember the first Star Wars movie in the trash compactor. The same friggin' thing that was in there is in the water, or pretty close to it, in the water outside of this mine. So they have to like ditch that thing, but it messes up the door, jams the door on them. Because it's always trying to press buttons. So now they're locked in, because at first they get in the mine, they go, oh boy, never mind. This place has not got a good feel. But they can't leave. So now they have to go through this mine or kingdom or whatever. And it's totally empty, but there's a weird feel there. Like, and basically, this is when Gandalf is really grouchy. He says, don't make a sound and we'll be fine. But don't do anything dumb, Pippin and Merry, by the way. So meanwhile, they're searching for a while. Then they find this, like, one room where they decide to take a break, and they find these books, and they say, oh, boy, this is the history of the last residents here, and they're reading it, and it's very tense. This was one of the best scenes in all three movies for me. Because the tension really builds, and then there's some great action. But so they're reading this book, and it says, oh boy, there's something, we dug too deep, and we found things that should never be found deep. This is all fiction, by the way. They say, don't worry, it'll be fine. But for this part, this is part of the movie where you learn this, gain the skills that you'll learn, use later 2 or 3 movies from now. But they say, oh boy, there's like little people, like, and then there's some big baddie too, like a big boss level, biggest of the big boss levels in the first movie, but not as big as the final boss, Sauron. Probably have to deal with Sauron too at some point. But for now, and then Merry or Pippin, they knock some stuff into a well, makes a bunch of noise. That wakes up everybody that lives in the mine. They come. And they're not they're like, hey, we want to take your stuff. This is our house. So basically, the Fellowship, they have to get out of there. While they're trying to get out of there, they realize that the big boss is even like this is a boss level. It's not just a level; it's a level with a boss at the end. And this one looks like a boss. Like it's big, it's got hot skin, no shirt on, the whole 9 yards. It's got feet. And it doesn't have feet. It has whatever those things are called, clompers. And apparently I say this wrong. I always call it a barlog, but I guess it's called something else, barlog. I don't know. Barlog is what I call it. That's just but that's like the giant big boss. So they're on the run from everybody that lives there and the big boss. And they're running. They're trying to get away. Couple things in here were, the physics of the effects were a little over the top, but most of them get away. But then this like big boss is still in pursuit, and Gandalf says, I got to stop this, because in the end, Frodo has to get away. That's the most important thing. And so Gandalf stands up, tries to take on the big boss level, kind of does at first. That's when he says, and I misquote this all the time. I always thought he said, "You shall not pass," or something, but he says something different. But I always used to yell that all the time. But he tries to shut stuff down. Then him and the like boss, they leave the movie for a time being. Now, don't worry, be back. Don't worry at all. Now, so then everybody's heartbroken because Gandalf, while he was he could be a grouch and he probably was pungent, and he could have used a hair washing. He was their leader, pretty powerful and a father figure and kind-hearted when he could be, and considered the brains of the operation. They say, holy cow, what are we going to do now that without Strider or without Gandalf, we're toast? And now I'm not sure. I mean, I know. Okay, so then they wander into the Elven Kingdom, and these elves find them. And now they're totally heartbroken. It takes them a while. I think they have to dodge the ring race once or twice. They get into this Elven Kingdom, a different Elven Kingdom. These are the Forest Elves. And Cate Blanchett is the queen of the Forest Elves. They find out about Gandalf. They have a whole ceremony where we find out that Aragorn is like totally, she totally can see into everybody's heart. So she's trying to give everybody advice. But she says, this is going to be tough, really, really tough. But she says, you could do it together. You got to get this ring. You can't give up because they all want to give up, of course. But she says, it's not going to happen. So then she says, here's some lembas. I got some, camouflage cloaks for you. We'll rebuild your spirits. Lembas is like traveling bread or rations. And so she gives them some tools that they're going to need. Camouflage coats are always great. And she gives them canoes. They set off again. But meanwhile, now Saruman's army is looking for them, and they're like, can run really fast, and they have a great sense of smell. So it's even worse. So eventually what happens is they try to park their boats. They got to go around these falls. And this is all like taking its toll on Frodo too. And Frodo, like they all get the advice from Cate Blanchett elves, but how you interpret the advice is up to you. Now, meanwhile, Boromir, the Sean Bean character, he's like still like, wait a second, I've got royal blood. I know what's best, I should just take this ring. We'll bring it back to Gondor, and we'll rule all in place of Sauron. Power, ultimate power does not corrupt. And he almost is like all these foibles prove my point. So at some point he corners Frodo. He says, now the ring, plays tricks. It's got a built-in delusion. So he says, give me the ring or I'll take it, basically. And Frodo says, no, man, that's not how it works. And he says, I'll just take it from you then. And then Frodo wakes him up. But at the same time he wakes up from the delusion, that's when the Sauron's crew comes in. And everybody's separated, so it becomes this whole mess. And Boromir decides to go see the Great Gondor in the sky, fly with the Gondors above Gondor. And everybody's split up for a time, and Frodo says to himself, maybe this is for the best. I'm just going to go by myself. Maybe they re-meet again and they have reconvene for a little while, but then Frodo sneaks out, and even Strider sees him and he says, okay, I get it. And so Frodo tries to head out solo, but Sam says, you're not going with me. And Frodo says, I got to do this alone. I feel like it'll be safer for everybody. I'm small. I can hide. Also, the Elven Queen pointed out to Frodo that they were being followed by Smeagol, and that Smeagol was already following them. So that's comes up, I think, in the next movie. And so then Frodo says, no, Sam, you're not coming. Sam says, I'm come with you. Basically, I'm 100% coming with you. He doesn't give him a choice. So they head off together. Meanwhile, I had forgotten that Merry and Pippin, they became guests of Sauron's army. Because Sauron's army, they said, just get the halflings. They said, get them all and bring them to Sauron. So Merry and Pippin are stuck with their guests of the army. So then Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas are the last three of the Fellowship left. To their knowledge, Gandalf has gone to the tower in the sky, but even though that's not what happened. And Boromir's, in the Great Gondor. And Sam and Frodo are off. And so they kind of almost needed a distraction. And maybe this Sauron's army's not that smart. So they said, we got what we came for. We got two of the halflings, right? So they say, our mission now is to rescue Sam and Pippin, or Sam and Merry, or whatever. Merry and Pippin. And so they head off to do that. And I think that's how the movie ends. But let's look it up a little bit. Okay, it came out in 2001. What else do we need to know here? The budget was $900 million. Oh, no, $93 million. Almost did $1 billion in box office. Sauron, One Ring, Frodo Baggins, Middle Earth hangs in the balance. They start off to Mount Doom where they can destroy the ring. Let's see, plot. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, in the Second Age, they were all given these rings of power, but they were, they were really under the control of Sauron. In Mordor, Isildur of Gondor is the one who gets the ring off of Sauron and defeats Sauron, returns Sauron to spirit form. Isildur actually wore the ring. Then it loses the ring. That's when you got 2,500 years later, Gollum finds it. Then Bilbo finds it with Gollum. Oh, yeah, it was 6 years after that, 111th birthday for Bilbo. Gandalf shows up. He leaves everything to Frodo, including the ring. Gandalf says, wait a second, this is the one true ring. And also learns that Gollum was the one who told them that it was the Shire and Baggins who took the ring. Gandalf says, you got to get out of here. So I guess that all happened in, over 2 nights. Samwise heads off. Gandalf goes to meet with Sauron. And Frodo and Sam are joined by Merry and Pippin. I got that right. They go to Bree to meet with Strider. Oh, it was supposed to meet with Gandalf. But Strider says, I'm there. We're going to Rivendell. Then they go to Weathertop. So this part's right. Frodo gets kissed by a ring wraith. And then Arwen, the elf, and Strider's beloved. And, Strider and Arwen reunite their love for each other. Then they say Lord Elrond decides you can't keep the ring in Rivendell. Got to be destroyed in Mount Doom. Frodo volunteers, and then Gandalf, Sam, Merry, Pippin, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir, and Strider, who is actually Aragorn, Isildur's heir, and rightful king of Gondor. Frodo gives Sting a chain shirt of Mithril to Frodo. Bilbo gives him those. Okay, so they head out to Gap of Rohan, but Saruman's watching that. Then they go off over the mountains. That's when the storm comes. They have to go through the mines of Moria. And that's when they run into all those Balrog, I guess. Is that how it's spelled? B-A-L, Barlog, but it's Balrog. Gandalf fends that off, but they vanish together. Then they go to Lothlorien, Galadriel. She's the one, she tells Frodo that only he can complete the quest, and that someone's going to try to take the ring. Sauron's got his crew looking for them. Then they go to Parth Galen, and Frodo gets, so I was right, deals with Boromir, tries to take the ring. Then the crew shows up. Merry and Pippin go with them. Aragorn comforts Boromir as he heads to Great Gondor, promises to help the people of Gondor. Frodo heads off alone, but Sam comes because he promised Gandalf he would look after Frodo as his friend. He's going to need a friend. And, so I guess I was pretty close there. I mean, I guess I've seen it. There was definitely changes. I don't know what'll be on the Amazon product. But, yeah, it'd be interesting. And, I mean, I'm sure it's looking back at this and then preparing for something new. I always like it. As long as the casting's good and the story's good, and the effects are good, and the music's good. But I think the casting will be interesting. I don't know any of the cast, but I'm looking forward to it. So good night, everybody. That's the tale of the tape with Inside My Mind. All right, I want to thank everybody that signed up for our Midnight Mission newsletter. It's free, and people get to come to live shows, join us, and help and support people experiencing homelessness. It makes a huge difference to me, especially people that are willing to do something. It's free. Hey, sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission. So I want to thank Adrian. Thank you. I want to thank Ellen. Thank you so much. I want to thank Zappa. Thank you so much. Kimberly, thank you so much. Ellen, thank you so much. Sarah, thank you very much. Saritha, thank you so much. And Mart, thank you. Thanks for taking a few minutes. Actually, probably takes like 30 seconds to sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission to support and join in and be a part of the Sleep With Me community. I really helps, being a part of something helps me stay engaged. And appreciate everybody that supports the podcast so it can come out twice a week for free. It supports me making the podcast. It supports the sponsors. We've been able to add all those extra shows on the free feed because of these Tuck You In sponsors. So here you go.